As you look at it, you can see that it's built of rugged materials. This is 3/4 inch plywood. It's actually called 23/32 these days, but who counts? It's glued and screwed together so that it is weather resistant. Nothing is weatherproof, of course, but it is very solid, very sturdy. There are a few nails and some trim pieces and that sort of thing, but generally it's glued and screwed. You'll see also that there are some trim pieces here. They are all useful. I didn't want to put anything on that didn't serve a purpose, and I didn't want to have anything loose laying around that could be lost in a campsite having been taken off. So as I spin it around, you'll see different things, different reasons for it. I'll try and go through and explain why each of them is in place. As I turn it around, you'll see on the back side I have a couple of extra ribs on the back door, and that's because as you're jerking it up into a trailer or letting it go down, I was concerned that it would catch on something, or it would mar a piece of the wood or something like that. So I put in the extra ribs here. This for your foot to kick against when you want to move it. This as you want to slide, if you slide it against something in that nature. And you'll see the two wheels. These are fairly inexpensive. I picked them up for about $8 a piece. They come with tires and wheels all together. You have to come up with an axle, and I'll have that detailed in my plans as well. But I tried to pick something that is fairly rugged, would roll over rough ground and move along with minimal effort. These essentially are the same wheels that would go on a heavy-duty wagon, a pull-behind wagon. Now I want to talk about some of the features of the box. Some of the features, as I said before, I wanted to make sure that as much as possible was integrated and that there were no loose parts that get set aside once you get to the campsite and then inevitably will get lost. So some of the features that I'll point out to you to try and prevent these things, you'll see here that the handles are cut into the box. Again, it's not something that's strapped on the top or would have to be bolted on, but rather you just grab hold, pry just like a furniture dolly, and away you go. Another item that you'll see here is that the front and the back panels, which also will serve a different purpose, are attached via a draw latch. Moving part, yes, but removable part, no. Simply unlatch and relatch. There are 4 per panel. They're a bit tricky to get right, so you have to experiment with that. All my holes are pre-drilled. I didn't want to deal with split wood, so I highly recommend that. The base, I'll spin this around so that we can look at the front. The base, the very bottom shelf, which we'll see is extended. That provides extra support for the panels to rest on, so that they're not just out floating and reliant solely on the draw latches to hold them into place. That was something new. The shelves, and let's go ahead and take one of these off. The shelves are all notched into the structure, so there's no need for an additional rib under each, which would make the storage space smaller. They're notched directly in here, just routed it out, one layer of the plywood, routed that out so that they would be notched in, so they fit securely. They're all glued and then screwed from the outside. There is a top shelf, which the original designer came up with the idea, put the propane stove in here. There's actually a divider in here. I don't know if it will show, but there's a divider in here so that the propane stove will slide back. It's exactly the right size, and then the back side of that, there's the exact size for the small propane canisters to slide in, and you can fit about 4 of them across. So that's something different about the top shelf than the other shelves. And you see the 2 drawers. The original design, the gentleman made 3. I decided to make 2 on the advice of of some of my family members. They said, well, you know, if they have to carry along plates or something for boys that don't have their own mess kits or something like that, then 2 shelves, 2 drawers would allow you to have a little more space for the larger items, and you could carry those securely in here as well. And one thing I didn't mention, in addition to the draw latches, you'll see the slide latches here, the slide bolt latches. And you'll see in just a few minutes what those allow us to do. Now I'd like to take a few minutes and show you how the kit actually assembles once you're on site. As we saw initially, it comes as a self-contained box where you have all of the panels that are useful and lock into place. This is how you would transport it to a site. Once you get it on site and where you like it, then you disconnect the draw latches, you remove a panel, and on this panel you'll see all panels are the same. I went ahead and added some Formica. That's up to you to do if you like to do that, and it's got several coats of varnish on it. There are 2 holes drilled here that have a certain depth. They don't go all the way through. One of them did, but we corrected that. But the 2 holes are for the purposes of the sliding bolt latches. What we need to do is we take these are the only 2 loose pieces, and these are just cut out of scrap wood. A lot of this is out of scrap wood, but the dimensions of these will also be included in the plans. Basically, these are the 2 supports. So I take my panel, there's the bottom. The bottom is notched out, as you can see, because it fits right on top here of the shelf. So it's notched out. The top is where the 2 holes are drilled. As we set it on the top bar, then we latch our slide bolts and take one of our 2 loose pieces and create a table area. Then the back panel, same process. Back panel is a little taller because I wanted to have counter area here to prevent things from rolling away. I made the counter areas, or the side areas in the back area, a little taller. Take my back panel, which is essentially the same as the front panel. Also 2 holes drilled in the top to accept the slide bolts. Slide it into place. Hold with one hand, slide our bolts into place. Okay, that one wants to be a little fussy. You have to play with the holes a little bit. There we go. Then take our other remaining loose piece. Make sure I get it fairly square. And I have another shelf. From tip to tip, we have just at 7 total feet of countertop space. And because of the weight of the device, because the wheels are set fairly wide, it's also quite sturdy. There's no real concern about this thing tipping over. Because I have 2 latch bolts, it also is resistant to being knocked by somebody walking by or that sort of thing. Now obviously this is not going to support the weight of a Scout. You can't get up here and hop and sit, maybe in the middle, but I would clearly discourage that as well. Some people may want to put 2 struts in, however this is a piece of 1x4, so I don't believe that it's going to create any issues. And again, the more struts that you have, the more loose things that you're going to have to carry around to stash in here. One other thing that I added at the last part is this grab handle at the bottom, figuring that if we have as many as 2 boys tugging this on the back when they're trying to move it into place, an extra grab handle would be helpful to get it into the trailer if we need a 3rd boy to get it past that part, or if it's a rugged terrain where somebody is going to be camping, then they need to go over a large stick or a log or rock or that sort of thing. It could be helpful to have a 3rd person steadying it or helping lift it over various obstacles. I want to show you also, once you're all finished with your weekend camping and you've got everything packed up in the check box, you're ready to go back home, show you also how to take it back down. Just basically the reverse of the process of putting it together. Support it with one hand, take your strut and place it in there, lower it just a little bit to release the tension on the draw latches, or not the draw latches, but the sliding bolt latches. Comes off. Latches fit in together, get your draw latches set. Top two, bottom two in place. Do the same process for the smaller wing, the front. Drop down. There we go. Again, we have notches at the very bottom here so that it can fit right on top. Slide it into place. Got your draw latches. And there you are. Packed up and ready to go. Get one larger boy or a couple of smaller boys and time to go back to the trailer. Again, the primary purpose for coming up with this design and making the modifications that I did, these boxes are heavy. They carry a lot of weight, they do a lot of things, and rather than have a bunch of boys or oftentimes scoutmasters come along and pick it up, I wanted to come up with a design that had the same ruggedness, same imperviousness to the environmental factors, but also was a little simpler to get around. I eliminated all but two loose pieces. All of the latches are fixed, so they move on the box, but they don't remove from the box. The only things that are loose are the two supports that go under the tabletops, and if you lose those, you've got bigger problems than just a couple pieces of hardware. I believe it satisfies the needs for being simple, for being rugged, for being easy to move, and not too expensive either, according to some of the estimates that I've seen for other things. So have a look at it. If you'd like to have a look at the plans, I can email those to you. If you would write me at the address that you see on your screen, it's saluki@nc.rr.com. I don't have them available this minute because there were no plans when I initially set out to do this, so I'm drawing them, but there will be detailed and spec'd out plans of not only what each piece, the size and structure of each piece, but also how you lay it out on a piece of plywood so that you can minimize the amount of plywood that you have to use. Again, it's 3/4 plywood for the entire skeleton, and then the drawers made out of 3/8 plywood. The total cost for each of the two boxes that I built was approximately $150, but that takes into account a lot of supplies that I had on my own. All of the side pieces, the ribs, the little pieces like that are simply scrap 2x4s, sawn down to a 3/4 inch thickness, and then I routed them so there were no sharp edges, that sort of thing. The Formica I had also from some other projects. So those are things that you may not have laying around. There may be other things that you do. You may have some stock plywood. So again, if you'd like a set of the plans and pictures, email me at that address and I'll be happy to get them off to you, and maybe we'll make a couple other dolly boxes. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation and have a good day.